This week on Inside the Skev, we speak with Susan Abrams, the CEO of the Illinois Holocaust Museum located in Skokie.
And our museum is infused with symbolism throughout, including entering on the dark side, if you will, and then descending into the depths of the Holocaust, not necessarily seeing what's around the next corner in our core exhibition, and you emerge on the light side, empowered to use your voice and choices to combat hatred and to stand up for justice.
Listen in as you can learn more about this museum and how you can stand up and make a difference. So I was able to get a little private tour of the museum and, really got to, I've been here before, but really got to understand a lot of the meaning behind it. And, a lot of it is about educating the public about how to stand up. And, and I think it's interesting because it seems like that is the, full purpose of, in many ways, of the museum. And probably because of its origins. Can you speak to how the museum started and why it's here in Skokie?
Sure. Our museum started in response to the proposed neo-Nazi march in Skokie back in the late 1970s. And little known, Skokie was then home to more Holocaust survivors outside of the state of Israel than anywhere else in the world. And this proposed march, decades after the Holocaust ended, came as a terrible affront and shock and horror to these survivors who, since the war ended, had channeled all their energy into learning a new language, immigrating to a new country, reestablishing education, a livelihood, a family. And suddenly there were neo-Nazis proposing to march in their own town. And so they raised resources and raised their voices and energy to combat that, realizing that education was the best antidote to hatred and bigotry. And that led ultimately to two things. One, the founding of our museum, Illinois Holocaust Museum, and two, to their lobbying our state legislature for education on the Holocaust. And Illinois, in a proud moment for all of us, became the first state in our country to mandate the study of the Holocaust. That was in 1990, and in 2009 that was expanded to include other genocides and atrocities.
It wasn't originally here in this building, right? I remember going as a kid to the location on Main Street, and it's I feel like that was what was available at that time, and the museum had a fundraise, and this space is it takes your breath away. And, it seems like there's a lot of thought behind it, right?
Well, thank you for saying that, and that's correct. The museum did open in a much smaller facility, essentially a storefront on Main Street. And 10 years ago now, in 2009, we opened in this beautiful Stanley Tigerman designed building. So Stanley, as many of your listeners may know, is locally based but world-renowned, and our museum is infused with symbolism throughout, including entering on the dark side, if you will, and then descending into the depths of the Holocaust, not necessarily seeing what's around the next corner in our core exhibition, and you emerge on the light side, empowered to use your voice and choices to combat hatred and to stand up for justice. In contrast to being a small storefront, Illinois Holocaust Museum is now the third largest Holocaust museum in the world, the second largest in this country. So second largest behind the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington and Yad Vashem in Israel.
Was there ever a thought to have it located in downtown Chicago?
In fact, and this was before my time on staff here, but in fact, there was a great debate at the time when planning for this new wonderful museum, back and forth about Skokie versus Chicago, and in the end, the place-based museum around this proposed neo-Nazi march that ended up becoming a Supreme Court case, First Amendment free
Right.
speech case. So it was placed here in Skokie.
And the movie.
Yes,
Skokie.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is quite, quite amazing that it is here. And, as, things have changed or time goes on, a lot of the survivors that lived here have died. And, how do you continue to get their stories out, even as they have passed?
That's a great question, and it's something we've been laser focused on over the last several years. And really, from the moment I started at the museum 5 years ago, we focused on developing content around survivor stories so that we could share them in the most impactful and innovative ways for generations to come. And while we have created documentaries and recorded our survivors in lots of different formats, a really exciting project, and one through which we became global leaders from right here in Chicagoland and Skokie, was the creation of interactive holograms in partnership with University of Southern California's Shoah Foundation. So using something called Dimensions in Testimony, you can come to our museum and enter our holographic theater and have a real-time conversation with a recorded survivor hologram, as you saw.
It's amazing. Yeah. And I think for some people it's probably eerie as well, but I think it's a great way to be able to continue to have that interaction with people. And go ahead.
I was going to say, the first number who were recorded, there were 13, and the very first one took years to do because it's matching holographic technology also with custom voice recognition software, so that a little background on it, survivors are recorded answering thousands of questions, 2,000 on average.
Oh, man.
And each of those answers can be matched to 14 or 15 different questions, so that you could come in and speak to Eva Schloss, Anne Frank's stepsister, or Aaron Elster, who was a hidden child, or Fritzi Fritschall, our museum president, who was a survivor of Auschwitz for about 2 years. And you could have about 20 hours of unique conversation, asking, up to about close to 30,000 unique questions that could be answered in real time.
Do any other museums do this?
Well, because we were partners with USC Shoah Foundation in developing it, we were the first in the world to have it, and we had beta tests of it for many years, but it opened officially here in 2017. And the second museum, Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum, just opened a version in September, as a matter of fact, and now Houston has a two-dimensional version as well.
Wow. I think it's really great. I mean, the technology, though, as technology gets better for voice recognition and artificial intelligence, will the presentations continue to get better with matching questions to the answers?
Yes. I mean, we calculate we're operating at over 90+% accuracy now, but the program itself self-learns, and we help it along as well. So it should only get better, absolutely.
That's so interesting. So you've really, taken, from when you came in 5 years ago to the museum, and 10 years ago is when the museum entered this space. So you've really kind of taken the next steps forward after the main move to the actual physical building. How are some of the things that you worked on beforehand helped you, and why did you choose to come to work here at the museum?
My background is a mix of private sector, so in banking and management consulting, and then in the not-for-profit space, which I think has always been an interest. It was actually part of what drew me to Kellogg at Northwestern for an MBA in nonprofit management. And kids and education have been my focus. So when I moved from McKinsey, which was the management consulting firm I was working in, my first job in the not-for-profit field was at Chicago Children's Museum. So focused on kids and education, but in the museum space. And for me, that was just phenomenal. I joined at a time where we were planning the move from North Pier to Navy Pier for the museum, and it was just exciting every day, and absolutely found my true love. Served there on staff for 6 years and then on the board for 9, and then in the intervening years done a range of other things, not for profit primarily, but also some for profit. And it all really added up to coming here. I was the COO of JCCs of Chicago when I was approached by the search firm that was hired to seek a CEO. And once I started thinking about the mission opportunities and the management, operational, organizational opportunities, I found myself with a notepad at midnight jotting notes and really couldn't stop thinking about it. And here I am.
Well, that's a really great background for what you're doing here, because, you could see the focus on education for children that takes place here, and it's, first class. And, just as I go through it and see how, it teaches children how to become upstanders and, to fight against bullies or hate or, all these types of things. But it's very innovative of how things are taught. So, I walked through here, for the tour, and, I don't think a young child may not be going through the exhibits on the atrocities of the Holocaust, but they're going through to learn about how hate and how to be an upstander relates to them. Is that something that you brought on?
That's a great question. The museum had already, when I arrived, an exhibition targeted for younger children, starting primarily in third grade to say 8th grade, called Make a Difference. And it's exactly what you said. It's helping our younger visitors to recognize the power of their voices and choices to engage and create a better world, to whether that's on the playground, in the lunchroom, or out in our broader community. And everything is interactive in the exhibition. And I think in my time here, we've really amplified that. One of the things that, again, we're leading globally with is our Take a Stand Center. We talked about the interactive holograms. That's just the first gallery.
Right.
Then we have the Goodman Upstander Gallery and the Take a Stand Lab. So you move from knowledge about something and inspiration, which you'd expect in a museum, to actually engaging in doing things and making a difference, which I think is a leading position. And so I think what we've really done is take that interactivity and engagement and inserted more of it throughout everything we're doing, including the newest galleries in our core Holocaust exhibition on resistance, where you're really have an experience in an environment of a ghetto or the partisan forest.
And how you resist.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that this museum is so important today when you see what had happened in the 1930s sparking up around the world, where you have ultranationalism and hate for other people, and it's really so much more important now. What types of things does the museum try to get out to the general community here to get people to understand that we need to help stop what's going on around the world?
Well, we do that through our exhibitions, of course, and we have, in addition to our core exhibitions, our youth exhibition, the Take a Stand Center, the Act of Art. We do it through changing exhibitions that either go deeper into aspects of the Holocaust, but also broader into other areas of human rights and social justice. And we are always making the connections from history to our world today. So the short version of our mission statement is remember the past, transform the future. Mm-hmm. And we always want to make those connections. So through our exhibitions, about 5 or 6 special exhibitions annually, so always something new, but also through our weekly programs when we bring together thought leaders and artists and activists working on a range of different issues today, as well as, of course, sometimes historical experts too, and bring them all together with community to spark and engage people and inspire them to get out and use their voices and choices.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you notice is, obviously this is the Holocaust Museum focused on the Holocaust, that took place in the 1930s and 40s against, mainly the Jewish people in Europe and, many others as well. But there's also exhibits on atrocities that happen to other groups of people as well. And, I was here a couple of months ago. You had a whole exhibit on slavery in the United States. And, there's other, artwork from other parts of the world. And, how do you get those, how do you choose what you're going to show? And how do you engage with the greater community around the area?
We work with an internal team of our education and exhibitions crew on exhibition selection. We try to plan out several years at a time, and we've developed some criteria for evaluating which exhibitions to bring in. But on a more strategic perspective, we try with our largest special exhibition space to alternate between going deeper into an aspect of the Holocaust, like Memory Unearthed right now, which looks at the life and death in the Lodz Ghetto, and that followed Purchased Lives, which you just mentioned about slavery. So we had slavery, then deeper into an aspect of the Lodz Ghetto, and next we are having Notorious RBG, the life and times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So that's one example, but our team scours the world really for what are those exhibitions out there that others are developing that fit with our framework. And then sometimes we're developing special exhibitions now ourselves that may start here and then travel on, as right now, Stories of Survival that looked at the Holocaust, but also 7 other genocides and atrocities through both the objects and art. Is now in Dallas and will be traveling nationally.
Well, that's a great way to get the word out about this museum.
Yes.
And obviously about the Holocaust.
Yes, and other genocides and about our common humanity.
Correct. Yeah. I had on the show the president of the National Cambodian Heritage Museum and Killing Fields Memorial. And we actually did the interview also in their museum and, talked with them. And they said that the Illinois Holocaust Museum was very helpful when they were trying to start up their museum. And, so it's great that there's the assistance and, sharing of knowledge on how to be able to get your story told.
Well, that's lovely to hear. We really take pride and drive joy in being a resource for others for all of this work, whether it's exhibitions, programming, and partnering. We don't think about presenting an exhibition or a program without first thinking who are those partners out in the community, which I think you asked me a little bit ago about how do we build awareness in the community, and a lot of that is through partnerships that enable us to leverage what we're doing here at the museum, exhibitions and programs to reach broader, farther into the community and to do it better. Yeah.
I think it's a, the way that the museum does it is in a delicate way that has great purpose where, the way that you come through 3 doors. You come in through the dark side, you learn it, you can interact, and you come out with a purpose. And I think it's it's a very hard subject for people to engage with. The Holocaust was the worst of humanity, but you leave feeling uplifted. And I went. I was in the museum in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. I was there a few months ago, and it was about the the Vietnam War Remnants Museum, and that was an incredibly intense experience for me. Just to go, I was not alive during the war, but it's from their perspective, the atrocities that took place. I could certainly empathize. And I left there, and I was basically in a state of shock. It was just so, I don't know where you go from there. Here you come through. It's just it's incredibly excruciating to go through that story, but you leave uplifted, and I think that's a huge success to the design and to the execution. So I just want to mention that.
Thank you for that, and it actually. Yes, and I think the Take a Stand Center for us really helps to inculcate that in the museum in a permanent way, because the closing film takes you from the time of the Holocaust to today, where you see that never again, which was the hope of survivors and community following the Holocaust, is not a reality, and atrocities are continuing around the world. And so the closing line is, now it's up to you. And we know pedagogically that could be kind of an overwhelming statement for people, but the Take a Stand Center really delivers on that and shows you how each one of us, shows each visitor how he or she could really create positive change and make our world better. So as you said, we hope people really leave empowered and inspired.
Right. And just to also expand on that, the Take a Stand Center, you go through and you basically select the things that best fit who you are. So do you like being playing in team sports? Do you like to lead? Just asking different attributes to find out what type of person you are, what types of things you enjoy. And then it basically spits out what types of actions you can do that you would actually do. And then you could put in your email address, and the museum sends you an email with the list of all the places that you could get involved for that purpose. And you're really leaving there doing something. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And, one of the other things in terms of relatability that we're really proud about, too, is in the gallery just before the Take a Stand Lab that you were talking about, our Upstander, Goodman Upstander Gallery. We feature 3 upstanders from the Holocaust, but 40 others who are working in the areas of civil rights, social rights, environmental and economic rights. And we did that because we want to inspire each visitor in their own area of passion, because we know it takes all of us working in those varied areas to make our world better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's very true. And, as time goes on and we don't have any survivors left, who carries the torch? Who carries the story? How do we continue to teach people so never again?
I frequently hear survivors share, now that I've told you, it's up to you. You now own this story. And so that is really our attitude here, that we will continue to tell these stories, and each person who's touched by them, but either here at the museum or out in the community, then owns that story themselves and can become that beacon in sharing.
Yeah. Are there other ways that other museums help people to take a stand and to stand up against genocide and things of that nature?
There's a wonderful civil rights museum in Atlanta that I think covers the territory. I think it's relatively new, though, within a museum to move people to action, that last step. But I do think in the coming decade and years, not even as long as a decade, that we will see more and more of it. And I think we already are, of art museums and all relating the topics of their exhibitions, even if they're historical, to our world today, and focused on more and more on what people can do.
Yeah. No, I think and do you think it's really had a great effect to help people understand and stop this at this point? It's been I think it has been in many ways. Do you?
I do think so. And when I read our comment board, where some of our visitors in the Take a Stand Center make a pledge of something that they're going to work on and put it up there, they're so moving. I mean, it really gives you hope for the future when you read young people's comments, whether it's helping somebody who's being bullied, or mitigating food waste, or working to create healthy environments, and whatever it is, and you see and hear these aspirations and commitments, it just gives you hope for the future.
Yeah, it certainly does for me. And, the people can be members here, or you could just come in and take a tour, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And you have a lot of school groups come in. I mean, how many school groups a year come through the museum?
We get 70,000 students and educators coming through annually. So, yeah, it's quite a number, and we're very proud of that.
Is it all schools throughout the area, or is it, just even bigger than Illinois that come through here?
It is even bigger. You might imagine concentric circles around where we are. So we draw heavily from Chicago public schools, from suburban schools, private, parochial, throughout Illinois and beyond, Wisconsin, Indiana, and as far away, believe it or not, as Nebraska and Florida.
Really?
We get school groups. Yep.
Wow. Well, I guess, it is the third biggest in the world.
Yes.
And either you're going to go to D.C. or here or L.A.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, or Dallas, I guess, too.
Yes, right now,
Don't forget
which
them.
used to be much smaller, but now has a phenomenal, wonderful new museum there, too. So there are more and more wonderful options, but we are a wonderful opportunity for many from beyond our state.
Well, I think it's great how you try to get everybody involved. And, for me, coming here was the first time was the movie about Chinu Sugihara, who saved many Jews in Lithuania. He was a Japanese consulate, and he forged visas to have, people come through to Japan and then to the United States. And that was just a way that I saw as a way to get involved here at the museum, and I became a member afterwards. How can people become involved here? I mean, I obviously through donating, but what other types of things can people do to get involved?
Yeah, well, visiting anytime, and if you're a member, members come free all year. And since your audience with this podcast is Skokie and Evanston, we love that because people can drop in for 45 minutes or an hour and just see one of our new exhibitions. Come every couple months and see a new exhibition, or for our weekly programs. But beyond that, we have almost 400 volunteers who make it happen here.
Wow.
Every day. If you think in the spring we could have 1,000 students and educators, and they break into groups of 20, so that's 50 docents on any given day. So, and visitor services volunteers who do everything from working in admissions and the info desk to our museum store. So there's endless opportunities for volunteering, and we would love to have more folks join into our museum family. We have our Young Professional Committee, we have our Women's Leadership Committee, our board. So these are all different ways to engage. Of course, we welcome donors too. So lots of different opportunities.
And you guys are also on social media, so people can always find out the latest.
Absolutely. Yes, please do find us on Facebook or Twitter or Insta.
You guys are pretty good at it. You always find out what's going on.
Well, that's a high compliment. Thank you, coming from you.
Oh, thank you. I'm the expert. I'm kidding. And where is the museum located, and what are your hours off the top of your head?
Yeah, we're on Woods Drive, 9603 Woods Drive in Skokie, and our hours are 10 to 5 daily and Thursday evenings until 8. So we are open 7 days a week, again, 10 to 5 and Thursdays till 8.
Well, everybody, this is a real unique treasure, this museum, to the area. And, I think everyone should come by, check it out, get involved. I think it's important whether, any walk of life you come from. It's important to know about what happened and to get yourself involved and stand up. So, Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
And Aaron, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. If you want to learn more about the Illinois Holocaust Museum or any of the other guests that I've had on the show, go to skevinson.com and sign up for the newsletter. And you can go on any podcast app and you can subscribe to this podcast so you're always up to date. If you would like to get more information or have any suggestions for me, feel free to email me at aaron@skevinson.com. And of course, if you need any help with your real estate needs in the Chicagoland area, feel free to reach out to me as well. Thanks so much for listening, and please subscribe.